to the show. We have Danish, who's going to be our guest. I'll introduce him in a minute. But before I do that, let me introduce the topic for today in communication strategy for remote leaders. I think you know that as the world went remote, communication is probably one of the most important topics that has come up, mainly because communication is probably what has changed significantly. I mean, this is owing to how the bandwidth has changed and how we communicate. It also means that a lot of communication is about listening and understanding the mindset of what your audience is at, and there is a significant gap in how we can do that right now in a remote first environment. And all this is lead to how can we change our communication strategy in this remote world. And we are super excited to have Danish, the right person to be talking about this. And bringing up Danish on stage, welcome Danish. For those of you who don't know Danish, Danish is the founder of Orai app. It uses AI to give you insights on how you can speak clearly and confidently. If I were using that app right now, it'll tell me that I should probably slow down, or I should take a big deep breath and be better at how I'm saying this and not use 100 likes and ums and ahs.
I think you're doing a great job. Yeah.
Okay.
You're not using any ums or ahs. You're talking at the right pace, not too fast, not too slow. It's perfect.
Perfect. See, that actually gave me the confidence to talk, which clearly means that Danish knows a thing or two about communication. He also went on the TED stage to talk about how he overcame the fear of public speaking. There is a link to his TED Talk right on the side of this. Feel free to click that and watch it after this meeting is over. And you can go to his LinkedIn profile, which is also over there. Danish was also Forbes 30 under 30 for the year 2021. So we are here. We're super excited to have you here, Danish. Welcome again to the show.
Thank you. I'm just going to remove this hoodie of mine.
So we can see the real Danish, and Danish, not the one who actually wears the hoodie.
Yes.
Super excited, Danish. I'm going to jump right in. I think this is the first part of it, is where I get to ask you some questions. What we have in store is we're going to ask questions. You see that raise hand button on the side. Feel free to raise hands and I can bring you up on stage. If you have a question for Danish or me, or you want to say anything in general, we can do that. But let me start off with this question over here, Danish. Spoken communication. I mean, why is this important for a leader? I mean, I want to hear the 2-minute version of it from you.
If you're a leader, how are people interacting with you? They might see an email from you, that one sentence or one word email from you, or they might see your Slack messages. But the one that has the biggest impact is when they actually see you talk in your Zoom meetings, in your Zync meetings, in your WebEx meetings, whatever that meeting is. When your team or your company sees you talk, that's when they actually decide, hey, is this a good leader or not a good leader? And it's so simple. Literally, if your team sees you speak for literally 1 or 2 minutes, they can start making decisions in their mind, psychological decisions, whether you're a good leader or not, literally just based on the way you speak. So if you are timid, shy, soft-spoken, using too many ums and ahs, they might start thinking you're not confident, or this leader is not smart, or how will this leader lead us? On the other hand, if you come in with excitement, with energy, with confidence, with a good voice and a powerful tone, they're going to trust you more. And that's what actually communication does. So it's super, super important.
This is great. I mean, I think this is true for leaders across the world, anywhere, at any point of time. But how has this changed since we went remote first? How has this changed, first of all? And if so, how?
One big thing was more remote meetings, right? Before, you might bump into your leader in the elevator and they might be like, hey, Jane, how are you doing today? And that is missing now. You don't get those serendipitous, meaningful moments. What can you do? You only get them on Zoom, and it's hard to replicate that. So everything you have is these formal, structured meetings. Maybe some companies, I've seen them start doing huddles that are more spontaneous. That's awesome. It really reduces the bar of how formal you need to be, and it opens up that relationship building. But in most scenarios, for most companies, being remote first means you are talking on a Zoom meeting. And that's what's happening. So you need to have great communication skills in order to be able to do that.
Great. Yeah. So why don't you lay down? What would you say are like your top, I don't know, three skills or three ways that like you can communicate with presence in a video conferencing?
Great. Let's do it right now. The first one is your video. And this video has to be not too close. Like some people might be too close to their camera. This is overwhelming. Other times, people are too far away from their camera. The ideal stuff that I've heard is you can put a fist here and a fist there, and that's like the appropriate distance, which is not too far, not too close. Psychologically, it feels like you're actually talking to that person. They're literally sitting in front of you across a desk. That's that appropriate distance. So that's one in your video. The second thing in your video is your lighting. Like I have good lighting here. If I turn this off, it'll be hard to see me. Or if I have a window behind me, again, hard to see me. Many people make that mistake. But another second, very tiny thing. The third one is your hand gestures. Now you've seen me, right? I only have this rectangle. I have nothing more than this rectangle to make an impact, and I want to make the most of it. And most people, what they don't do is bring their hands inside. So try and make the most of this rectangle you have. Bring your hands in, bring the audience's attention back to you. So those are three things just in your video. Now, aside from your video, if your video is off, whether your video is on, I'll turn off my video. But you will notice that I'm still talking with energy and excitement. As soon as I reduce that energy or excitement, you don't care as much to hear me. And two ways I do to bring that energy and excitement is smile. As soon as you smile, your voice just sounds more magical, more beautiful. And you don't need a big smile, you need a 20% smile. Just try that when you're speaking. If you forget to do that, take a sticky note and put it right over here behind your webcam. So as soon as you're looking at your webcam, you see a smiley face that I'm looking right now, and it just reminds me to smile. So smile, it'll make your voice richer. The second thing you can do to sound more energetic is sit up straight. Like if you constrain your lungs by sitting down and like crouching, you're not giving your lungs, your voice box enough oxygen, enough air, enough voice to just sound resonant. So you need to open up. And the best way I think to do that is if you're sitting on a chair right now, take your legs, instead of putting them like this, cross them. As soon as you cross your leg while sitting, your back automatically gets straight. Your spine literally just gets straight. And when your spine is straight, it opens up your lungs. And now you have more energy. So as long as you smile and you cross your legs and your back is straight, your voice will sound less monotone. So that's my
Love it.
video tips and my audio tips.
Love it. Love it. I mean, I'm standing and talking, and I'm already like thinking about like all the ways that I have come across before. And I'm now like very conscious. Is my smile like really 20%, or am I just like over smiling right now? And I'm starting to feel like conscious, but I guess I think I take that in the right spirit. And like, I think this is super valuable. And thanks for like making it crystal clear. That's a great soundbite that we have right from that conversation over there. And I want to, have more questions for you. But given that you put me in, like, oh, we have Deepak who wants to come up on stage and ask a quick question. Deepak, come on up.
Thanks, Arjun. Great stuff, Danish. Really good to hear this from you. Question to you is historical video conferencing tools have kind of emphasized like more of a one-way conversation where you've got a speaker who comes in and delivers a bunch of content to consumers who are mostly passive, right? Obviously, if it's a meeting setting, you've got a natural interaction to that, but things like when I'm sitting in an all hands or when I'm sitting during a larger team meeting, what kind of cues are you looking at from your audience when you have to go on these monologues to ensure that are you getting the right level of engagement? Are you sure people are not checked out and things like that?
Yeah.
Love that question, Danish.
First thing, if I was managing that company, I would try and avoid as much as I can having monologues. And I know that's not your question, but this is a trend I'm seeing of asynchronous working, where any meeting where one person has to speak for more than 10 minutes straight, that could have been done async, where that could have been a Loom video, a video recording sent in advance so that when people are actually coming in, it's more of a discussion. And there's no one person who is overtaking the speaker time. That besides the point. In your point, imagine you are the leader. You are doing this all hands. You have your team of 10 or 100. How do you do audience engagement, or how are you looking at the cues? I always suggest making it like your video will be on and then just cueing the people, hey, would love to see your energy. And so would love to see you as I'm talking instead of staring at blank screens. And that just makes some people turn on their video, making them comfortable with the Zoom chat. It's so important. You can even start off your meeting with something like what Arjun did, which was, hey, where's everybody from? But that was a basic question. In your case, you could have asked a different question that perhaps just gets people that trigger that threshold is crossed, which they are engaged. All they had to do was type one word or two words, and that's just that threshold where, okay, I'm present and I'm engaged. So when you ask me a longer question next time, 10 minutes through my meeting, I will feel more comfortable engaging with you versus just sitting down.
Awesome. This is spot on. I think like putting people in that right mindset ahead of the game and then like setting it up for success makes so much sense. Thanks, Deepak, for that question, and great answer, Danish. Before we go on to more questions, and I have more questions, I want to like do a small activity over here. I mean, again, right? Like we both talking or one person talking, we want to switch it up. Let's just do an activity. And here, I'm going to put you a little bit of a spot over here and say like, there is the whole presence communication, but there's also like these interpersonal communications that's happening both in the remote world, and this is true even otherwise. How do you immediately react to that with confidence, clarity, and with empathy, right? I'm going to switch up, and for doing this, I would request everybody to mute your microphone, and except for Danish perhaps, where I'm going to put you in a spot where you're going to hear from Leonard, who is, let's just assume that he is in your team and you just walked out of a meeting with Leonard, and he says this, and I want you to react to it as if you're responding to Leonard. Pretty short, a 1 minute response or under that is perfectly fine. And let's hear it.
In the team meeting yesterday, you interrupted me 3 times. Maybe you think your viewpoints are more important than mine, or maybe you think you're better at design than me, but you don't have to belittle me in front of the whole team. Could you please stop doing that?
I did not realize that I did that. I'm very sorry. Thank you for bringing it up. I know it can be hard to bring up certain things like this and giving feedback, but I really appreciate. I'm of the same opinion of radical candor. If you feel something, you say something to your other team members. So thank you for bringing it up. I will make sure that in the next meeting or two, that does not happen. I mean, if it does happen, please, you can bring this up again with me.
Ooh. Awesome. I think I loved it, especially the fact that you went on and acknowledged how Leonard was feeling at that moment. And you are truly an expert in this, Danish, and like that came off really well. I want to like, it's like just dig deeper to you and like ask more about like how do you prepare yourself for situations like this and how do you do this? But before I do that, I want to throw this up for another volunteer if they want to come up and do the same thing. We have a couple of different scenarios that exist. I'd love for anybody to take this up. I see some real good candidates for this, so that maybe you are a right person to come and like, I'm going to make you a volunteer. And then I've also given some heads up over here is like, there is this next one is about Jonathan, who's a junior person in your team. and he gave a presentation at the team meeting, and you thought it was pretty bad. And so right after that meeting, he comes to you and he's going to say something, and I want you to hear your reaction. Siddharth, are you up for this? Can I put you on the spot?
Sure.
All right. So I'm going to make Siddharth the next person over here, and let's hear it.
Phew, I'm glad it's over. I spent the whole week preparing for that. How did you like it?
Siddharth, you're muted.
So, Jonathan, the first thing I'd say is I think you put in a lot of effort into it, but I don't think you succeeded in getting your points across well. I think it would have been helpful if you had practiced a few times before actually doing the presentation. And I always encourage people to spend a little bit of time in front of a mirror practicing how they're going to deliver. And I'm always available to help you with this, but I'm not sure you got the point across to the team that you're trying to. And next time I can actually help you make sure that you can make a more persuasive argument.
Whew. Awesome. Direct and straight to the point. That was fantastic. I want to hear other people's reactions to this as well, but I want to do one more, and this is turning out to be nice. I don't know about you folks, but I'm enjoying this. And thanks to that for like volunteering and coming up on stage. We have one more, and I want to bring up who is like the next volunteer. Can somebody raise hands and come up on stage? Or I'm going to call names over here. I can see Deepak being excited about this. Deepak, are you up for the next one?
Cool. Sign me up.
All right. So I'm going to make Deepak the next person. But again, the topic over here is you are going on a vacation tomorrow, and you just learned that your manager dumped a big task on you, and you're worried about this. And your teammate Eric comes and tells you this.
Let's mute all our mics before we get to this one.
Yeah, just make sure your microphones are muted so we can hear it.
You're going on a vacation tomorrow, right? Don't worry about it. I can take care of that. Just enjoy your time and come back refreshed.
It's awfully kind of you. Like, first off, my bad that I possibly should have kept you and the team on the loop on when my vacation was scheduled. It apparently looks like it was a big surprise to you folks. So I should probably own up to not creating enough transparency with you and the team to put you in the spot. But thankful that you've been able to swoop in last minute and help me out. I owe you. So feel free to return the favor when it's time for you to go have fun somewhere.
Kudos. You folks are all really, really good at this communication thing. I guess you guys have been leaders for a while right now, and that shows. Danish, I'm going to turn this back to you and get like a quick reaction. Like, what did you're muted by the way, but like, what was your reaction to seeing Siddharth and Deepak, who are clearly like, experienced leaders, respond to this?
It did feel to me like they are experienced leaders, right? And I think that's two big reasons. It's not because they were not using ums or us, or they were using ums or us. I don't think I don't think it has anything to do with ums or us. It's more about how poised this sounded. It's not even about sounding confident in this. These are tough conversations at times. Sometimes these are conversations where you just need to appreciate some good words someone else tells you. So it's about being poised, composed in those tough scenarios, but also showing that appreciation in those scenarios that are not those tough scenarios. And it felt like Deepak and Siddharth did exactly that.
This is fantastic. I think what resonated for me was like the idea that all of you gave a bit of importance to how that other person felt before you went on to tell your opinion, and there was a feeling concept involved in this, which is such a clear important thing with like empathy, and like I think I'm glad that we did this, and this is nice. Siddharth wants to come up on stage. Let's bring him on.
Danish, I had a question for you. There is one part of a presentation which is about you sharing what you are doing and presenting yourself well, but there's the other part of active listening. And I've always thought that I'm actually not a very good active listener. And how do I actually imbue this sense that I'm actually paying attention to what is being said by the person who's presenting, particularly when you're completely remote?
Yeah. There are two scenarios of being an active listener. One is, let's say you're sitting in a presentation and you're watching that 10-minute long presentation. Sitting through that 10-minute long presentation and trying to pay attention, something that comes to my mind is we get distracted very easily. Like when others were speaking, I confess, I open up another tab to just check my notification for something. As soon as one does that, you need to catch yourself. Hey, am I really present here? Am I attentively listening? And you can't. If you are multitasking, you're not attentively listening. So that's one way to figure that out. A second way is not in the 10-minute long presentation, but more in a meeting that there's a conversation happening between one or two people or 10 people. I have seen one good way to pick out when someone is not paying attention or not being a good listener is when you cut people off or when you interrupt people. And this happens every single day. We're just not mindful of this. So try and be more aware. Did that person actually finish speaking before I interjected? And you might have thought that they finished, but maybe they were just pausing or thinking of the next transition. So you have to give them at least 2 seconds. I know sometimes we feel we need to speak up because we want to show that we know and we're smart and we're knowledgeable, but not at the expense of actually cutting someone off. So you have to wait about 2 seconds, make sure 100% that they're done. If you want, you can even confirm. Deepak, are you done? Can I say something? And they might say, I just want to finish one more point, or sure, yeah, Siddharth, I'm done. So you can make sure that, or just wait 2 seconds. Don't interrupt. Don't interject. Give everyone a safe space. And if you are a leader, you see that happening, you can either, after the end of the meeting, tell that person one time. And if they still don't understand that, during the meeting, you can point to them directly in that meeting that, hey, Jay was still speaking. Let's give them some more time.
Spot on. I just waited my 3 seconds before I continued over here. We are all learning, right? Over here. I think this is a very, very important point. I've heard this quote being said, like, listening is hearing what isn't being said, and hearing is listening to what is being said. That resonated with me a lot, where like we are most times when we come in and like we are like listening to the idea that we're going to be like saying something and I'm listening just so that I can get a chance to speak. There is a whole another thing where like take that moment, take that pause, take to like imbibe that information and then talk. And this is easily said, but Danish is one among the people that I know that actually demonstrates this when he speaks. Amazing. Thanks for this question. This is great. I think Andrew has another question. We are having a lot of questions over here. We don't even need to have a Q&A session. So this is great. Andrew, what's up? You're muted.
Thanks, Danish. One thing I think is more of an observation. I'm wondering what your reaction is, which is I see leaders doing this a lot, where they will maybe someone else who reports to them or someone else who's not involved, maybe someone who's a little bit more junior in the org structure might go on a presentation, and maybe their presentation skills aren't that good. Maybe they're not very pointed in the way they speak. And that's the moment where I see leaders especially kind of zoning out. You see that, you just know that they've checked out. You can just see it. In a way, it's almost, to me, it's a form of laziness, in the sense that they're not going to then take the time to coach that person and say, hey, here's how you can speak better, give a more pointed presentation or what have you. What are some suggestions for maybe a polite way to say, hey, I noticed you should put your phone down. I know you were doing that. I mean, I as fellow leaders, you can probably have that conversation, but hey, you should have that conversation with that employee. I know you checked out, and you should probably say, something to that person. That's kind of a tough conversation at times, but what are some ways that you might be able to do that without necessarily like calling that person out and making them uncomfortable?
It all depends on the culture you have in your company. If the culture is, hey, I give you feedback, you can give me feedback, then it's very easy. And if you don't have that culture, the best way to get started with that is, as a leader, you tell everyone, hey, these are some mistakes I have made during my career, and I've had other people tell me about them, and that's how I have improved. So I still believe I can still improve every single day, and I would love for you anytime about anything, point it out to me. I'm always about good feedback. So as soon as you as a leader come in being vulnerable and saying I can take in feedback, it gives you the ability to then give feedback to the other people in the team, or they might do within themselves. So it all depends on the culture. Let's say the culture is there or not there. The exact thing that you said, hey leader, maybe that leader is your peer, or maybe that leader is one level above you. You can still be direct. Worst case scenario, they don't like you for 2 days, then they'll forget. But radical candor is always good in an enterprise. They will appreciate it. Maybe not at the same time. Maybe you were not the most kindest when you said it. That's okay. They'll forget that in 2 days, and they'll appreciate you after 2 days where, wow, I think I needed that feedback. I am actually distracted. And that can be a coachable moment for my team because they're the ones doing the presentations. And this happens all the time. Like, this is not a new thing. Leaders get bored in presentations because junior folks are not concise. That's the biggest thing I hear from executives. We need people to be concise and to the point, and they're just not concise and to the point, and meetings run over time. And at the end of the meeting, you're scheduling another meeting. So coaching people how to be concise to the point is it can be the biggest time saver in enterprise.
Right on. Thank you. Kim Scott for the win.
This is awesome. We had like such a packed interview sessions over here that like we've run out of time at this over here right now. I don't know if anybody else had any other questions, but I'm going to take a last call on questions if it comes up. But maybe before we take like any last minute questions, I want to hear just from like a couple of other people of like, what is sort of your tip, right? Like real quick. Again, I want to keep this like 30 seconds or under. Brevity is the key here. What is one communication tip that has worked great for you in virtual meeting, which from somebody who's not Danish, that you can actually like, quickly share? Jay, come on up.
Cool. Yeah. So this kind of overlaps with something that was mentioned before is how can I imbue the confidence that I'm actually listening to you. But actually, really, the one thing that works well is to listen really well is to get someone's opinion and try to rephrase that in your own words and confirm that that's what you're actually asking about. And that's two things. It kind of really make sure that you're listening to it, and it gives the perception that they know that you're listening to them, and really makes engagement a lot better.
Spot on. Mirroring, the idea of like taking somebody's opinion and then like telling them. Andrew.
I think Danish talked about this as just talking about feelings more, and that might seem kind of bizarre, but otherwise it's just like a piece of medium on a screen. It could be like a video, like YouTube has no feelings, right? But I think it's easy to forget that we're watching a screen, but there actually is a person on the other side who does feel something, and we're going to forget what they say, but if we remember how we feel, I think that's always key, and helps people be more concise too. It's like less is more. They're not going to remember what you said in the presentation. They're going to remember how you made them feel. So that's been a game changer.
I love that quote that you mentioned there. People don't remember what you said, but people remember how you made them feel. That's spot on. I think that's super key there. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? And oh yeah, Samim.
Yeah, hi. So I think for me, a really good one has been asking more questions. First-hand experience, I really like when people ask questions because it validates that they're listening to you. It validates that they're trying to follow along and make sense of it. And the same goes in reverse too. When I ask questions, I think it helps me clarify things instead of saying, yeah, okay, or whatever else to a conversation that's happening.
That's a great idea. Questions. How did you come up with this, Samim? I need to ask. Kidding. But I like the spirit of asking questions, especially like questions that are not like, yes or no questions, but more open-ended questions, as well as like questions that improves the clarity of it. I love those things. Awesome. Thanks again, Samim. I think that's pretty much what we have. We are kind of wrapping up our show at this point of time. I want to end in the sort of a round table where everybody can like continue this conversation, while you can share feedback by clicking on that button on the bottom left as to like how we can improve the show. We would read all those comments and like take it into making this talk show better. If there are any top takeaways that you have from this show, feel free to write that in that list over there. It would be great to see that card list build over there. Danish, super happy that you joined us today and gave all those nuggets, golden nuggets of information, and as well as like tips on how to communicate and how to shape up that communication strategy. Thanks again from everybody.
Thank you, Danish. I'm going to be like all obsessive about this thing now. This could be like your new kind of like trope or like new headshot, and then people in your clan can identify themselves.
My avatar is about this. And I'm also changing the shape of this video all the time. It's circle, it's square, it's rectangle. Now you got to like, just keep changing this position for yourself. This is great.
Danish, I'm curious too. I wanted to know, great communicators that you see, like where can we get like videos of people who communicate great and we can kind of learn from them?
Yeah.
You won't get good meetings as much unless you see a recording of a webinar like this, but they're hit or miss. Some webinars, they suck. I hope this one was good. But TEDx and TED Talks have been the best, especially of notable speakers like Simon Sinek. It's a great one. But those are more presentations on a stage, but less of how to be more effective in these kinds of meetings. But if you do that, some of the small things that we talked about, they make a big difference. Like someone mentioned, smile. That in itself, if you can just take one takeaway from here, smile in your meetings for the next 2 days and just see how much of a difference that makes.
Awesome. Sweet. We could hang on over here and talk more, but like this is kind of officially the